Hello, I'm Lazlo J. Luongo, and today we're going to be making this. It's a hybrid wax. It's a combination of an oil-based clay and a couple of different waxes and some wax additives. The thing that I like about this is that it sets up nice and hard, like plastic, and it holds detail really well. But it softens up nicely. You can soften it by hand if it's a small enough piece, and it's just like a modeling clay. It's great. Here are the ingredients we're going to be using. The base that we're starting with is Craft Smart clay, which is available at Michael's. It's a sulfur-free clay, and it's oil-based. It's about $3.50 a pound. I'm using 3 pounds of it in 2 different colors. This color, which is called Flesh, which really doesn't look like flesh, but that's the name on the label, so that's what we're going to be calling it. And this one, which is, I need glasses, Ivory. So Flesh and Ivory, and we're going to see what that looks like. To that, we're going to be adding some Gulf Wax, paraffin basically, but the reason why I use Gulf Wax canning wax is it doesn't have anything else added into it. Certain types of candle waxes that you'll find will have things added in to make it harder or to make it not drip when it melts. This is just straight paraffin wax. And beeswax. You can buy it in a block. I bought it in pastilles. These little pastilles, little beads, you can just take a handful of these and soften them in your hand and start sculpting with it if you want to. It's great fun, and it smells really, really good. That's the reason why I like using beeswax. There are some alternative waxes that I haven't tried yet that are supposed to feel about the same as beeswax, but they're cheaper and they don't have that beeswax smell. Optional ingredients that we're going to be using today. This is stearin, or stearic acid. It's an additive that's used for candle making that gives you a much firmer, more plastic-like wax, and I'm going to be using a little bit of that so that I've got a nice stiff finish. And rosin that I got from the sporting goods store. This is going to increase the tackiness, the sticky feel of the modeling clay, and I like it to be a little bit stickier. I like to be able to make a piece and let it set up a little bit and then just stick it onto the model, and that allows me to do that. Alright, it's time to add the ingredients into the pot. I have the pot set on the lowest setting. We don't want to go very high. You don't want to let the wax boil, and you don't want it to smoke, because it could start a fire. So keep an eye on it. If it starts to smoke, lower it down, take it off the heat. Starting adding the beeswax, which cost about 14 change a pound. We're not going to be using all of it. We're going to be using between half and 3/4 of the pound. So I'm going to leave about that much left. No, maybe a little bit more. And to save money, for a cheaper alternative, you can replace the beeswax with this. If you remember these little wax bottles from when you were a kid, if they're like this, you might want to slice them open with an X-Acto knife and rinse the juice out. And it's not exactly necessary because it'll just blend into everything else, but if you're the type of person who worries about something like that, then you might want to do that. And this is pretty much the same as white beeswax, and I have some white beeswax in here that you really can't tell the difference between the two. And this right here is probably about $4 worth of bottles, and this looks like it's almost a half a pound. I haven't weighed it, but maybe $8 worth of bottles would get you enough to make the whole thing. So I'm going to be adding a few of these in. That should be good. And the Gulf Wax. Gulf Wax comes in a 1 pound box, and it comes in these 1/4 pound slabs. And for now, I'm going to be throwing in one of these 1/4 pound slabs. think I'm going to do 1.5 though. Roughly 3/4 pound of beeswax and 6 ounces of Gulf wax. So this is melting pretty quick. We need to wait till it's just about liquid, and then we're going to add in the stearine and the clay. I'm only going to add in the clay 1 pound at a time so that it melts thoroughly. Alright, this is basically liquid. It's just about time to add the stearine and the clay. Now the stearine I'm not going to add a lot of, just a pinch basically. A decent pinch sprinkled in. That should be enough. And you can see this is already a pretty firm clay to start with. That's part of the reason why I'm using this. Make sure you get all of this plastic off too. If you get a little piece in there, it'll show up, it'll turn up in your clay. And this is probably going to take a good long while now to melt. Alright, so you can see that the clay, the flesh colored clay that I put in is already about halfway melted, and it's been about almost 10 minutes now. I'm going to put in the ivory block of clay, and we'll wait for that to melt. Alright, so this is that last lump of clay that I just added. It's just about gone. So the last step for me is going to be to add in the rosin, and then we'll put this into a mold and put it into the freezer. So I'm going to add about half this bag of rosin. And everything that I've added to the clay, you can experiment so that if it's not firm enough, you can add more wax. You know, once it's cooled, you can melt it down again and add more stuff. So I'm going to reserve some of this some of this rosin, so that if it's not sticky enough, I can always add more. But once I knead the clay again to soften it, all these little bubbles will break up and mix in. I can just pop them along the side. Okay, that should be mixed in good enough. And I have my mold over here. And we don't have to coat this with anything, because once this cools down enough in the freezer, they'll both shrink and it'll just pop right out. But now I have to hope that it's not going to overflow, because I have never made this much in this mold before. Alright, I'm going to go with that. And this stuff that's spilled, once it cools down, I can just scrape it up with something. That's it for now. I'm going to let this sit until it's starting to firm up before I move it to the freezer so that I don't spill it on myself. And this, I'm going to find someplace else to put. And we will come back once it's done. Alright, so this is how much we've made. It's been sitting in the freezer for about an hour and a half. And this one, if I just turn it over, it just falls right out. This one I'm not going to be so lucky with. I think I'm going to have to warm this up in the oven until it's about clay consistency and just scoop it all out. This is a piece that hasn't been in the freezer. This was what I scraped out of the pot. And you can see it's nice and firm. It's got a good firmness to it. I'm probably going to add a little bit more Gulf wax to it. That's just for my own personal preference. I want it to be a little bit more plasticky. I might not, because I made this batch to work on larger sculptures, so this might be good. We'll see. The next video that I'm going to make, I'm going to start talking about all of the different ingredients and what they do to a clay, so that you'll have a better understanding of what you might want to add to this. But this is a very good start for now. I think that's it, and I will see you next time. If you like the video, click like. If you want to subscribe, click subscribe. And I'll see you next time. This will be the up run.
Alright, well, we are rolling.
Okay. Hello, I'm Lazlo J. Luongo, and today we're going to be making this. It holds material, it holds detail nicely. If you can see, can you see? Can you see Nixon?
Yeah, well, I could also do close-ups too.
Okay.
We can do
Nixon
cutaways.
can do close-ups later. Like I said, it's just some modeling clay that I got from Michael's, some wax, and some more wax, and some stuff that you add to wax to do different things. And it works. I mean, if you like this, you don't have to make something else. If you want to get picky and technical,
Outtakes in the credits.
if you want to get picky and technical, that'll come in later episodes when we start to control different things about the clay, like the firmness. Different things about the clay, like the firmness, how... Did you get it?
I don't think so. This is terrifying. Oh, God, there it is.
Get the out of here.
Use that way?
Yes.